welcome to Chef Shelley's Kitchen. Hope you all have had a great holiday. I'm actually taping this just after Thanksgiving. And so I've got a real treat today, and I guess I probably always say that, right? Everything's a treat. Well, a lot of times, you know, my inspiration for coming up with different things to share with you tend to be things related to what's going on in my life. And so this recipe that I'm going to share with you today is no different from that perspective. So I recently had a visit with my physician, great checkup results, blood work, everything's great. And so I told my doctor, I said, you know, I really have, I want to find a way to try to get rid of some of these pounds that I gained, just transitioning with hormones. And some of you might be saying TMI. There's a context for this. So anyway, what she recommended, she was telling me about how quite a few of her patients had had some great success with Whole30. And so I started doing some research around Whole30, paleo, as many of you probably know, and I'm not trying to endorse any particular plan, but I do believe in doing a cleansing, every few months. And so that's really kind of how I see this particular, and I don't even want to call it a diet, it really is a cleaning program. And one of the things that I read that I was really intrigued by, it talked about giving your body a 30-day reset. And I really believe that you have to do that. So I've been on 30-day fast, 40-day fast. And so I said, it actually is time for a fast or a cleaning. The reason why I like actually both of those programs is that it gets you at your organic or as close to whole foods as possible. So no processed foods. You're really not restricted so much in terms of vegetables and the meats that you can eat, but it's in the preparation. It does eliminate dairy and sugar, which again, can be troublesome. Again, I'm not making endorsements, and if you even want to do something like this, I always say check with your doctor, and guess what? My doctor gave me the okay. So one of the things that these programs require oftentimes is that you prep. And you're not going to be successful if you don't pre-plan like your meals and things of that nature. And because this particular program really restricts a lot of things, I can't really go off the shelf and buy certain things. So today we are going to create our own chicken broth. Now this is going to be especially good for, I know I have some folks in Europe that have reached out to me and they said, hey, what do I do if I don't have chicken broth? I can't get chicken broth in the grocery stores here. Now I'm going to teach you how to make your own chicken broth. And why is that important? It's important because this is just such a great way to season a lot of things. It's a great way to season vegetables. For example, I have my crock-pot kale, crock-pot collards. Using a chicken broth that you've made naturally is just totally perfect. And again, you can do some of the same types of things if you're a vegetarian in terms of making a vegetable broth. I've talked about that. So this is very simple. You see my handy dandy crock pot, which of course I always love. This is a meal that we're going to be making overnight. So I'm going to be putting it in the crock pot and I'm going to let it cook all night. I'm going to have it on low. And so it's very, very simple. So the first thing, and here are just some real simple recipes. I've got, or recipe items or ingredients. I have 6 cups of water. I have 2 stalks of celery. I have 2 carrots. I have 1 onion cut in quarters. And I have a tablespoon of dry basil. And I've put a half a teaspoon of sea salt. So, it's going to be up to you, of course, how much salt So if you're not sure, what I would say is don't put the salt in at first, let it cook, and then you can add it, okay? Because that's one of the problems with a lot of broths that you buy in the store anyway. They have so much sodium. So here's a way for you to control that. The other main ingredient here is chicken. So here's what I've done. I actually went to Earth Fare. For those of you that have an Earth Fare, it's actually an organic grocery store. And they have, as with a lot of stores now across the country, they have these $5 roasted chickens. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? This one is called a naked chicken. And it's a whole chicken. And what I did was I pulled out, my husband and I love eating the breasts. I pulled the breasts out, and I've taken everything else, because what's going to make this broth so terrific are the bones, really. So the bone skin, and we're going to actually take all that stuff out when we create our broth. So, but what you can see here, and I'll just lift up, you know, I just have bones, and, you know, one of the things I started thinking about was, man, I wish I'd done this with my turkey broth from Thanksgiving. So you've got your backs, your thighs, but all the bones, the legs, everything is just going to go right in there. So it's very simple. All we're going to do again here, we're going to put in our water, and this is a total of 6 cups of water. Excuse me. And then to that, I'm going to put the chicken and all the bones, okay? So now you can do this with raw chicken. I decided to actually go with the one that was cooked. It wasn't like overly cooked. Plus I knew I was going to be cooking it overnight, so I really felt like I could get more of that juice out of the bones overnight. So that's what I did. And again, here I'm back to simple, right? And this was a naked version, so it didn't have seasoning on it, which is awesome. All right, next we're going to add the celery. And as I mentioned, it's 2 stalks of celery, 2 carrots, and I've cut them up, as you can see. And then just this onion that I've cut up in 4 pieces. See, look, I dropped, my counter is clean. No worries, no worries. And then the last thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to just kind of stir that around just a little bit. And the water is fully covering all of the ingredients, okay? So that's what you're going to need. And I'm just going to sprinkle the seasoning. Remember, it's basil and salt, sea salt. And be careful with your salts. It's so important to read the ingredients on everything. I was looking at a package of salt earlier. It was regular salt, and it has things added to it, gum and this and that. So I just try to do straight sea salt. It's much healthier for you. So that's it. What we're going to do, again, I'm going to turn my crock pot on low. I'm putting it in a safe place and plugging it up, and I'm going to just let it do its thing all night long, and then we'll come back. Obviously, I'll have on a different tire, have had some good sleep and refresh, and I'll come back and we'll talk about what to do next. A couple of things. I know that I'm going to be using some of the broth immediately, so I'm going to put some in some small, like cup size holders, so it's already pre-measured. I'm also going to freeze some of that broth and put it in ice cubes, and then I can take the cubes out when I need to. So we're going to talk more about that when we get the broth, okay? So let's stay tuned. Okay, so we're back. It's the next day. As I mentioned, I let my crock pot cook this broth, if you will, overnight. So just about, I'm going to say, for me, it was about 12 hours. And I had it on low. So if I had it on high, it probably would have evaporated most of the water out of it. By the way, one of the things that I love about cooking in a crock pot overnight is you wake up and your house already smells delicious. And it does. The broth looks really good. Now, you're probably saying, gee, Shelley, what are all these dishes that you have out? These are kind of my staging areas. One of the things that we're going to do is I'm going to also make a meal out of this. So I'm not going to throw this good meat away. We will put the bones aside, but everything else, if you remember, I had bought a whole chicken, and here are the 2 breasts that I laid aside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all that good stuff and I'm going to actually transfer it over to this bowl. All the meat and the carrots and the celery and all that good stuff. And then I'll divide out, you know, some of the fat and in terms of skin and the bone. We'll put the bones in another area. But for now, I'm just going to put everything in here and we'll move the bones over there. So getting all the good stuff out. And it's a pretty dish, believe it or not. It's a pretty dish, and it's hot, 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 hot. I mean, I'm literally just taking it out. So, I mean, this will make a nice chicken soup as well. Only thing, we want the broth. So much for that. You could also add some kind of, like if you want to have cream of chicken. I'm not going to do cream of chicken, obviously, but you could do a cream of chicken soup, add it to this after you took the broth out. All kinds of things to leverage and salvage kind of the goodness that you actually cooked overnight. And boy, this really looks delicious. So this will be another meal. You know, we're not for waste. So what I'm going to do is I pretty much have most of it out. And now I'm going to use it, and I'm going to have some mitts for that. I think I have most of the large things out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this stuff here aside, and I'm going to now move my dish over here. Remember, I put 6 cups in, if you recall. 2 things that I'm going to do is I have some dishes that will hold a cup, and because I know I'm going to be using these this week, I'm going to have several of these, so I'll put at least 2 or 3 cups in there. And then I'm also going to make chicken broth cubes, so when I want to add it a little later, I don't want to waste it. We're going to fill 2 of these as well, but we'll just demonstrate just kind of 1 of each. So what I'm going to do is go in and take my broth, and I'm going to pour it here in my bowl. Again, some of it cooks away because of just evaporation. I think I may be able to get it all in here. Yeah. Voila. That's awesome. Okay, all of that is in there. Now what I'm going to do actually with the seasonings is I'm going to put this right in here with the rest of my goodness. And again, I'm going to take the bones out and all of that from the mixture I have over there a little later. So from here, I'm going to go on and measure out a cup, and I'm making a little bit of a mess. So just be careful with that. You might want to have a paper towel. My husband's always saying, do you need a paper towel? Do you need something? And this was one of those times that I should have put a paper towel. So I've got just about a cup. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in my little dish here and seal it up. And voila, we're going to have broth for the week. And then what I'm going to also do, as I said, was I'm going to put some, this should pour a little better. Let's go over the sink this time. And I'm going to go into a smaller container, easier to manage. And I'm going to just simply fill up these ice trays with the broth. Again, probably wise to do it over the sink, just in case you have any leakage. And it is warm. Okay, so guess what? We are done. We now have made chicken broth, goodness out of chicken. If you remember, carrots, cucumbers, onions, spices, and water. I now have a nice meal here that I'm going to serve with some roasted potatoes, and I'll likely make some Brussels sprouts. So I've got my dish and I can actually just go on and seal this till I'm ready. I am going to take the bones out though. And here's my broth for later on that I know I'll use in my vegetables, and some cube broth. So I hope you found this valuable. I would say you can do the same thing if you wanted beef broth. You can do the exact same thing. I would try to include some beef that's kind of on the bones, and you've got that because the bones are a great source of taste and flavor. So you can do the same thing if you want to do it with like a steak or something like that. So I hope this was as helpful for you as it is for me. Wish me well on my Whole30, and I look forward to coming back and even showing the progress that I've made. So bye-bye. Remember, subscribe to Shelley, Chef Shelley, if you have not already. And don't forget that I do have my cookbook out that matches the recipes for at least I would say about 80% of the recipes that I have out there is in my cookbook, companion cookbook. You can find that on Amazon.com. So subscribe if you haven't. Stay connected, and look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.